Welcome to This Week in Perfect Team. I'm your host, DRC, and we are the show that provides instant community feedback on all new content releases. And again, for the second week in a row, we are starting with a hype train. Thanks to Wait Till Next Year and Chuck and Mac Jax. You guys rock, and we love the support. But the mission tonight, what is the mission tonight? The mission tonight is to break down all the cards that Chris just gave us. And once we're done doing that, we've got a little seventh inning stretch that we like to call OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, that I think you guys will get a kick out of. And then we're going to end it with an Ask Me Anything. We've got some questions that we collected over the course of the day, and we're going to open it up to you guys to be able to ask questions live of us at the end of this segment here today. So thank you all for joining us. If this is your first time here, please drop us a follow. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live in the future. We do a number of different shows. Let's talk first about what tonight's show is going to be. Again, we got the 12 Hardware Heroes cards we're going through. I'm going for 3 in a row, 3 wins in a row on OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. And then we're going to try to stump with the Chompers at the end. But the program schedule is as follows. We do this show on Thursdays. We go on right after Chris. So that time is a little bit fungible there. We go on whenever he's done. And then on Sundays, I broadcast a World Series. When I'm in DLL, it will be the DLL World Series. If I make it back up to perfect, it'll be the perfect World Series. If I get relegated down to gold, it'll be the GLL World Series. So we'll keep that train going and welcome all of you guys to join us then. We normally have a good time, and we don't just do a play-by-play of the broadcast. We look at the stats, we look at the numbers, we look at the matchups, and it's a good educational time for all. And then Tuesdays, we've got a very, very different show. A little bit lower on the hype, a little bit higher on the intrigue. And the spirit of the Tuesday show is that we do an interview. We do a one-on-one interview with someone in the community. Someone in the community who's got a higher profile. And so far, we've had Mr. Chris Jardine himself on there. We've had Walnut. We've had Mac Jax, Quanta Condor. We just had Pidge. It was an awesome interview. If you didn't see it, check out the channel. The video on demand is waiting for you. And this coming Tuesday, we're going to have API, the most recent winner of the Perfect League World Series. So definitely don't forget to check that out. But let's get started here tonight. And before I do so, let's pull in my counterpart that I always have with me here, Mr. Kidneys. How you doing tonight, Kidneys?
I'm doing well. Excited. Got some new cards to talk about, and then we got some big hype for next week. So really excited for that too.
I love it. I really did feel like this was the calm before the storm. This was not a punchless release by any stretch of the imagination, but I think come next Thursday, we're not going to be thinking much about what we got today. But let's jump into what we got today. We started with Bullet Joe Bush, a bronze card, and a bronze card that is very low on the movement. It's the first thing that jumps off the page for you. And for anyone new to us that doesn't know what they're looking at on the screen, what you see on the left here is what Chris showed you. These are the ratings of the card. Here's the card art. Here's the name. But what's on the right side of your screen is how this card compares to other cards in the game. The higher the similarity score, the more like this particular card it is. And the way to read the deviation here is to start with Drew Smiley 66 and then add 2 stuff. And that's how you get to Bullet Joe Bush. And as we look at this card here, the comp that I actually want to draw from here is Vic Aldridge. So Vic Aldridge is a card that a lot of people use in bronze. Some people in the rotation, some people in the pen. He's not the best bronze card ever, but he's arguably a very usable card. And Vic Aldridge is 85 on the stuff, 39 on the movement, and 61 on the control. So just flat out better. More control, more stuff, same movement, and doesn't necessarily dominate bronze. So for me, I don't expect a gigantic bronze impact from our buddy here, Bullet Joe. But Kidneys, tell me why I'm wrong or right.
I mean, that's exactly the thing. I think Vic Aldridge is perfect comparison. He's just a card that's just this card, but a little bit better. And the issue with Vic Aldridge isn't really even that good in Browns anymore. He was one of those cards that really started off really hot at the beginning of the game. He was one of your best options in Browns for a starting pitcher, or even somebody you could throw out of the bullpen because of his stuff. But it really, as the meta developed and time went on and we got more Bronze cards, and some of the lives changed around, he really just fell off as one of those good options. And I know from some of your rankings, he's really not that good anymore. So this card being a worse version of Vic Aldridge doesn't pan out too well for him as a Bronze tourney card. I do see he's got some nice contact, so maybe depending on his avoid Ks, he could do something in some sort of a cap tournament, maybe Bronze cap or somewhere if he has some sort of rating to play elsewhere. But overall, not too great a showing from Bullet Joe.
Yep, so a couple things. First, another call out for Chuck in the chat, gifting 5 more subs to the community. Let's call out Rocketer1, who's continuing the gift sub that they got in the past. Wait till next year, throwing some bits in there. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. Second thing I want to point out is that I am getting back. I'm getting my groove back into Bronze. So for anyone that's followed my streams, they know that I built my game economy on a strong Bronze team. And I've turned my attention away these past months to other pursuits, whether they were not getting crushed in DLL anymore or trying to win the perfect league. Well, baby, I am back. I'm back and I'm trying to be better than ever in Bronze, and I'm collecting a lot of data and building an entirely new team. So if that is something near and dear to you, get into my DMs and let's chat about it. Let's collaborate and let's build the best teams that are going to be out there, because we've got that PTCS qualifier coming up, and I apologize that the first qualifier has already come and gone. So if you've already been knocked out, sorry, Charlie. All right, next card. Bobby SHANTZ, another bronzy. Man, I could do a show of all Bronze cards. I just love Bronze cards. I love thinking about how they're going to fit here. And where I want to direct everyone's attention to with this card here is the similarity score table again. Look at his most similar cards. There's a lot of golds in here. There's a lot of silvers in here. And this is but a lowly Bronze card. That tells me this card's going to be competitive. And we can see Bruce Sutter, who is a meta Bronze card for a lot of teams. That's a card that gets plenty of run. He is Bruce Sutter versus Wright, +3 stuff and +3 movement. So I think this card is absolutely going to be sought after, and I expect it to put up some pretty competitive numbers out of the pen. What do you think?
I mean, when you're comparing this card and we're seeing golds pop up, on his strong side, and then, even some silvers pop up on his weak side, I mean, this is a really, really good card. I think this is probably your best Bronze relief card in game right now. I really don't think it's that close either. I just think overall this card is so overcosted. You could even play him in silver and he would be pretty playable. Just overall having such high control, really good movement, and then pretty acceptable stuff in Bronze, being over 50, closing in 55, the downside is, unlike the Bobby SHANTZ card that we see in Perfect Team every now and then that has the 30 stamina, out of the pen, or as a starting pitcher. He only has 17 stamina. He is a true relief pitcher, but he's still, just as a true relief pitcher, this is going to be a must-have card if you're playing Bronze.
And one final point on this SHANTZ card, where is he weak? He's weak on movement, which just happens to be something you don't have to worry a ton about in Bronze. There's not a ton of boppers in Bronze that are getting play. Most people are running pretty light hitting lineups that have a lot of hitters under that 700 OPS line or under that 750 for sure. So there's not a lot of power in the Bronze game, and the control here is going to keep the walks from happening. The stuff here not being a detriment is definitely something that is a good asset for SHANTZ. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to rip some packs to find me some Bobby SHANTZ. And this card is actually the kidney's fave. So I know you've already shared your thoughts about the card here, but any parting words before we move on from Mr. Bobby?
This is a card I'm going to be looking to buy. the next week or so once some of them get out there. And just the bigger version of this card is a card that carried me through the lower levels when I was first starting the game. It's a card that actually entered the game as a relief pitcher, and I think it's one that I pointed out to the team. Hey, is this card supposed to be a relief pitcher? Because it has 32 stamina. I wasn't sure. And I wanted to know if it got the bump in the pen or not. How is the stuff going to play out? Mm-hmm. And they ended up changing it to be a starting pitcher. And so it's just a kind of an interesting card, and always one that I've loved to see play, and just a really great budget card. You can go get the diamond version of them. So just getting another cool Bobby SHANTZ card and a really powerful card is really great. So love to see it.
Public service announcement for everyone in the chat here. Mr. Snaggle J himself says cards and missions are live. So go check those out right now while you're listening on your other browser tab. All right, Max Carey. Max Carey's next, 73 rated card. Good base runner. That's where most of his blue comes from with his stealing and base running. The outfield defense leaves some to be desired. He's only got stock in center, and this is most definitely not a meta center field defensive profile. So then all of our attention needs to be focused upon the bat. And I don't know that the contact profile is going to carry it. I don't know that you can look at this card and think this is a DH within silver, even though we've got kind of a little Ichiro type action going on with the relationship of the ratings where the power is the lowest and you've got decent contact and avoid. I just don't think it's going to be enough to dent the meta. But what say you?
Yeah, certainly not. I mean, it's just a card that's so split heavy, and then the contact's probably a bit too low to be a pure DH. The problem with this card is it doesn't carry ratings in the corners, and obviously we're evaluating it from a tournament perspective, and in tournaments you can't train cards, right? So you can't put this card in left field, gain some left field rating, and then play him in left field, right? So the issue with him is, right, obviously 36 rating in center field is nowhere near playable, and the bat just isn't enough to hold its own at DH. So while not being a terrible card for right and having some nice speed, just overall probably not going to make the cut.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity here to stand on a soapbox that I know you have, just because it's the number one comp for Max Carey. And the number one comp here is 65 Joey Cora, who you have a uniquely high opinion of. So why don't you share for our bronze tourney aficionados why they need to care about Joey Cora?
So I am running Joey Cora as DH on my bronze team, and it is something I haven't seen anybody else do almost at all whatsoever. I know when you pulled data for bronze, you got almost no hits on Joey Cora anywhere. And Joey Cora is just a card that he's a switch hitting right-handed hitter with just a really good overall profile. He's got a decent BABIP. He's got, high avoid KOs, very high. I think he's got ADV right. And he just overall mashes right-handed pitching. And it's just one of those cards I kind of looked at and I'm like, why aren't more people playing this card? So I think it's a card that if you're looking for a DH, maybe even just a V-right DH more specifically, in bronze, you want to play Joey Cora, give him a shot. I know the small sample size, very small sample size we saw of him was pretty good. But, obviously we need more data before coming to a conclusion on how good he is. But I don't know. I like them personally. I've had good success with them myself. So that's just a little tidbit from me to you.
All righty, moving on. We've got NELLIE Fox. And this card is a touch more exciting than that last card because we've got a much more pronounced Ichiro action going on here. And so much so that I feel like we need a name for it. We've got our bird profile, which is just about the inverse of this. And we need a name for this. And as I was trying to figure out what that name could be, Hang 10 came to mind. This is also the sign language sign for Y. I don't know. We can lab that. We can work on it a bit. But what we've got here is a card, very low power, but a contact and avoid profile that's very interesting. And then a defensive profile that comes with stock defense at second base, 97 rated. And then the range, error, and accoutrement that go with it. Definitely not bad. As you look at some of his comps here, they are bronze and they are silver for the most part. So that doesn't suggest greatness right off the bat, but it is somewhat of a unique card as no other cards share this power profile. So what do you see with Mr. Fox here?
I think this is personally, for me, probably our highlight of the night. I think Nellie Fox is an absolute monster of a silver card. And the reason for that is you have such high avoid Ks, but you have such low power. And so the reason is he can have a high avoid K, and his BAPIP is not unreasonably low. And so the combination of those two things makes it a playable hitting silver card that's never going to strike out, right? He's going to hit for decent contact. He has okay gap power. And he's pretty acceptable defensively at second base in a tournament setting. So I think this card is going to be your meta second baseman for silver tournaments moving forward. It's going to be probably a pretty high demand card. And it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out. I mean, he's so low power. It's kind of an enigma that I almost wouldn't trust BAPIP formula on this one because he's so high avoid K and so low power. I'm not sure if I've seen anybody this diversive on the scale yet, but it'd be interesting to see how he plays for sure.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, so I moonlighted as a silver tournament player for a couple of months before I got my butt kicked back down to bronze. And I don't remember loving any of the second base options. I want to say I shuffled through Huggins or Higgins, whichever is the appropriate name there. Blankenship at second base. Freddie Sanchez, he might have carried some second, but I don't remember loving any of those options anywhere near as much as I love my Maury Rath and gosh, the name escapes me now, but the other half of the platoon in bronze. So I'm curious to see if this can supplant some of those guys that are currently sitting on those pedestals. And I guess we'll have to wait till the Rippers get to this card and the silver tournament players buy it and see if they deploy it and how good it is.
Yep. I know a lot of people are playing Bobby Richardson second base, and a lot of people are playing George Wright at second, and then another shortstop, like maybe even Bronze Ozzie or something at short. So.
Yep, and Ready Defoe.
Shake that up. Yep.
Ready Defoe had my guy. Fletcher was the name I was searching for. All right, so we'll move on from Nelly, and we've got George Bell. And with this George Bell card, we've got a classic bird profile. 100% bird all day, every day. Chris even called it out on his own stream. The power is the standout here. Nothing else even comes close. So we've got a bird, but it's also my favorite. So you have to ask yourself, why does the man who says to avoid bird cards, why is this his favorite card? Well, it has nothing to do with Perfect Team and everything to do with his place in Cubs lore. So there was a big trade in the 90s, and we'll have more on the 90s during the seventh inning stretch for our OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. There was a big trade in the 90s where these two gentlemen here traded sides. And the gentleman on your left is Sammy Sosa. The gentleman on your right is George Bell. And if the Cubs didn't have George Bell, then they wouldn't have gotten all the good years out of Sammy Sosa and all those wonderful steroid and cork bat driven home runs that made a lot of my childhood more enjoyable. So I love this card. I love George Bell, I should say. I don't love this card. I don't think this card is going to be competitive in gold tournaments. I don't think it's going to be a card that is highly sought after on the auction house, but I'm glad it's in the game because it allowed me to build that little animation there, which looks just fantastic. I think we can all agree. What do you think of this card?
Not great. Super high power, not a lot of contact, very low eye. I mean, he's going to be one of those cards that's 3 true outcomes, and 3 true outcomes isn't something that does great in this game. Can we just give a shout out? I'm going to give a shout out to our artist, Mr. Swecky Okays in the chat, who drew this amazing emote for us for the bird. Just fantastic stuff from him. So shout out to him. And yeah, not going to cut it in gold. Probably one of those why not a 79 cards, but I don't know if you even play this in a silver at 79. Maybe it's an interesting just because it's so high power, but yeah, that's probably about it.
Yeah, I'll echo your praise of Swecky Ox. Certainly appreciate all the help that he's given us, and this emote here is fantastic. So if you are a subscriber or if you've been gifted a subscription, you now have access to this wonderful new bird profile emote with the power hat. Moving on, we've got Paul Blair. Paul Blair, which was and has been a highly sought after special edition card within the game for a very long time, now has this 89 card. And the thing that's going to make this interesting is the defense. We know that the current on-meta center fielder is Lenny Dykstra. And this Paul Blair card has more range than Lenny Dykstra, range being the most important of the defensive metrics. So then we have to turn our attention to the bat. How is he going to hit? And I think that's where the fun part of this story might come upon some rough seas. I don't know that the contact profile here, which features power as kind of a slight bird on the VR profile, and then on the left side, you have a more acceptable mix of power, contact, and avoid, but I don't know that it's enough to knock off our buddy Lenny Dykstra. But what do you think?
Yeah, so the issue with this card is it just doesn't hit the baseball very well at all. And so when we're comparing it to kind of the gold staples in center field, like Lenny Dykstra, Bill North, even the really rare Lorenzo Cain, he doesn't really compare at all bat-wise. Like, it's miles, leaps and bounds how good Dykstra is hitting to this card. And the defense difference isn't that significant. Bill North is a very significantly better hitter than this card and has the same range as him. So if you want like a defensive gold tourney type build in center field, I'm not really sure the reason to pick this card over Bill North. If you want like a more detailed reason to why not to pick this card, it's just contact is a bit too low to like offset why the power is so high. And the Ks aren't too great either for gold cards. So it's got no eye whatsoever. So it's not going to walk. It's not going to get on base. So it's purely an average card, lower contact, right? So while it's got good defense, I really don't see it sees too much play. It's probably cheaper than the other options. It's going to be its advantage, right? So maybe you throw this out there on a budget, but overall, it's probably not an advantage. And I see a great point by wait till next year. It's going to get caught stealing a ton because of the speed is so equal to the stealing. That's going to be a disadvantage for it as well. So a little bit rough for Paul Blair in gold.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of new viewers since the last time you've given your very well-reasoned and articulate reasoning behind this, but tell us why it's not great to have a speed beneath your stealing rating. What happens then?
Right. So how it works, and it's a little confusing, the wording, but speed is your aggressiveness. So stealing and base running are your success rates. So stealing is how successful you are at stealing bases. Base running is how successful you are at getting that extra base. Speed is how often you go for the steal and you go for the extra base, right? So if your stealing is high, but your speed and your base running aren't higher, then what happens is you'll go for those extra bases a lot, but you're not that good at doing it, and you'll end up taking a lot of those opportunities and not hitting the mark on them, right? So a lot of the time, if your speed is about equal to your stealing and your base running, what happens is the card isn't that good of a base runner. If it's higher, he's a really bad base runner. So you actually want the speed to be lower than your stealing and your base running on a card.
Perfect. And before we move on, I've got a soapbox of my own that I need to get on. And it was something that I saw in the last stream, and it was just really eating at me. Can we be done with the Will Clark love? Can we be done with talking about how great he was or how fantastic he was? You know, the 1989 NLCS is something that I don't know that I'll ever get over. And then when I do forget about it, when I get into my older years and memory loss kicks in, that will be a welcome moment for me. So can we just cut it out with the whole Will Clark thing? I'm done with it. And I'm sure there's a Giants fan in the chat who's going to say something smart, or Chris will say something about why and I can't even understand that. Why does a Canadian and Chris have any fond feelings for Will Clark? All right, let's move on. Aaron Hill time. Oh, I can't get over it. All right, Aaron Hill, right-handed batter. And a pretty even profile, versus left versus right. Actually, oddly, with like a reverse split type action here with slightly more contact and slightly more avoid K versus same side. And a defensive profile that's certainly not bad. Now, is it gold tournament good? That's what I'm going to let you be the judge of here. But I see an interesting profile here without that standout attribute that really grabs your attention. Is this something that our gold tourney experts think is going to be a big deal?
So talking to our gold tournament experts, it's really one of those cards that's like, it's not terrible just because it's kind of all around a little bit high statted. But at the same time, there's just a lot of really good second base options in gold right now. And this card doesn't really exceed expectations anywhere. And given the profile is so well-rounded, it's not really a great hitter. Some of the issues you run into when a profile is so well-rounded is you don't get too high of a BAPIP. And then when you don't get too high of a BAPIP, you're not a great contact hitter. So you're not a great contact hitter. You have kind of a lower eye. It's okay, but it's nothing stand out. And then the defense is it's acceptable. You could certainly play him at second base, but it's nothing like absolutely exceptional there. So kind of an average player, but nothing that you're going to want to play if you're like super optimizing your gold team probably.
All right, next we've got Kevin APPIER. Kevin APPIER, 90 rated Royals card. And the first thing I thought when this card dropped is how in the world does whatever calculation that they have on their side pop this card out as a 90 overall? It's so splitty. So his strong side versus right is 87 stuff, 90 on the movement. And then, of course, the control can be lower and still be a diamond. But a card that's 79, 72, 59 on its offside as a starter, how does this card keep its diamond ranking? So this, in my opinion, is the ultimate why not an 89. And in this case, why not a 79? And MacJax actually beat me to the punchline there. So well done to you. But I think that this card is definitely not a starter in whatever form you're talking about here. Whether it's a diamond or a cap tournament, you definitely can't start this card because lefties are going to feast. They are going to absolutely feast on this profile. And then as you move them into the pen, there are just cards that do that thing, same side dominance better than APPIER does for those 90 cap points or for a diamond card. So I don't know that this card really has a raison d'etre. But what do you think, Kidneys?
I think I'd have trouble almost playing this card if he was a 69. I mean, I probably would play him, but I would have trouble playing him in bronze tournaments.
Oh, now that's hyperbole. This card would dominate bronze, wouldn't it?
He would be good, but he would be good for V right, but it would be a pen card, I think, for me. But yeah, it's probably one of the weakest, if not the weakest diamond I may have ever seen in 21. I think Chris almost nailed it on the head when he was talking about face of the franchise with this card. Feels like this card was almost created to offset the Royals face of the franchise mission, and then we realized we couldn't put it in face of the franchise. It was too late. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of this card is. It doesn't really fit anywhere. It doesn't do anything. Maybe it's part of a mission later.
No, the purpose of it is for someone to pull it and to Asa Lacy it up on the auction house.
Oh, yeah, I have an Asa Lacy. Anybody want to buy an Asa Lacy for like 115,000 right now?
Yeah, throw it up for 85K, and someone say, "Oh my God, Royals Diamond for 85K!" Click buy, and then like, wait a minute, this isn't part of the mission. Oh man! And then they have to turn around and Asa Lacy it.
Yeah, that's about as good as it's gonna get with this card. I think that's it.
Next, we've got Tim Leary, 89 rated starter. And I think this starter is almost preferable to the APPIER. Yeah, as we toggle back and forth, give me some Tim Leary, especially knowing that he can play within gold. So it's a card that is stuff dominant, not too vulnerable on the splits, slightly less movement and control and stuff as you go to his weak side. Brings a ton of sack bunt to the plate for his plate appearances there. What do you think of Mr. Tim Leary?
He's good. He's a little low in control. This is one of those cards that like very borderline gold tournament probably. One that maybe sees a little bit of play out of the pen. I don't think he cracks your starting pitcher rule. I think the other gold starting pitchers are just a bit better than this right now. Interesting. He has some contact. I wonder what his avoid K turns out to be. Maybe you play him in some format where you need him both sides, but definitely not a starting pitcher, maybe a relief pitcher. Overall, not badly statted at all. So, I mean, definitely could play for you if you need him, but nothing too special. but definitely not bad.
What if Chris snuck in like a 92 rated Avoid K?
With 1 power, it would probably break my engine, and I would have to like absolutely recalculate just based off this card alone, and I would be really annoyed. So I'm hoping that's not the case, as Chris goes in and he edits the card right now.
Well, you better be careful, because one of Chris's favorite pastimes is trolling you, and you opening up that door for him is only going to tempt him.
I know it does. He does like to troll me, that's for sure.
Next, we've got KAAT, another left-handed starter. This one, a twin, a ground ball pitcher with unbelievable defense. Off the charts, 129 rated defense. As we look to the pitching side of things, which is more relevant for a pitcher, you see that he's split dominant. He's going to do a really good job against the same side there. Once you do move him to the pen, if you do move him to the pen, his stuff boost will likely make him a low diamond that offers 90 plus at all 3 categories, stuff, movement, and control, which is not the most common thing. And that stuff boost will also cover up the right-hand stuff degradation you have here. So I think in the bullpen, a low diamond with a pretty good control profile seems somewhat interesting to me. How about you?
Actually, this is a card I really want for my off team that's like in silver gold that plays lefty cheese. I want this card really bad. I think this card is like really good for a low level lefty cheese team because of how like dominant he is against lefties. Like he's absolutely wrecks lefties. And I think he could start for a team like that even. So I think this card's a really cool budget option. If you pull one and you want to sell it to me for cheap, I'll probably totally buy it. It's cool. I think this card is going to be used as a budget option for quite a few players if you're playing lefty cheese on a cheap level. This is like one of the more fascinating cards to me. It's a pitcher with insane defense. I never got to watch him play, so I don't know how crazy he was, but I guess he was the Ozzie Smith on the mound. And ground ball pitcher, a little bit lower on the stamina, but overall just a really solid card that, is he going to make up with his left-handed dominance against right? It kind of reminds me of the S.E. Kenny Rogers card, which is a card I've been playing on my Smurf team, the Pickle Me Elmos, a lot. And S.E. Kenny Rogers has really been doing pretty well in gold on the lefty cheese with the lefty ballpark, able to kind of offset his weakness with righties. So I think it's good. I'm curious to how good it's going to be, but I think it plays if it's a cheap card, yeah.
And in light of the 129 pitcher defense rating, we've got Rascal in the chat asking us to contextualize the importance of pitcher defense. Of the 9 positions, where does pitcher fall for you, Kidneys?
Probably 10th.
Yes. Do not worry about your pitcher defense. Yes, you will find box scores. You will find highlights where your pitcher does something horrific that hurts you, but they do not field many balls, and I would not incorporate that into the calculus that determines which pitchers you are targeting and playing. Next, we've got Mr. Joe Mauer. A very interesting card here, and I say it's interesting not because of the average catcher defense and not because of the strong side hitting profile where he's got 90 contact and 90 power, but as I look at his versus left-hand pitching profile, I think he's going to hit better versus left than he is going to be versus right. Now, you've obviously got the pitcher splits to worry about there, and the effect of that could wash out what is a legitimately better profile here, where you've got 87 contact to go with a much better avoid Ks, and to go with a much lower power to give you a better BABIP. But what do you think of Mr. Mauer here?
So I have him almost hitting better. Actually, no, I do have him hitting better V left than V right. Yeah, which for a left-handed batter is, quite rare. It's very rare. So it's probably a factor of that the BABIP is actually better. Actually, it might not be better, but the avoid Ks is so much higher on the left-handed side. And just gap is not really an important stat, so you can kind of throw that out. And then I is, it matters a little bit, but it's not a ton. So just having that big avoid K boost of 13 when your trade-off is a little bit of power, which is going to offset the BABIP loss from the Ks anyway. It's interesting. The card overall is just kind of understated. And he's a really weak defensive catcher, so there isn't really a spot for him in the current meta. But it is really interesting that we got like a true reverse splits hitter, right? That is such a rarity nowadays. So
we're going to do something that we haven't done on this stream before. We're going to do a flash giveaway. So I have in my possession a perfect point code that is good for, I believe, 12,000 perfect points. And it is only good for people who do not use Steam. So if you do use Steam, please don't participate. But Joe Mauer went number 1 overall in the Major League Baseball draft in 2001. Who did the Cubs take right after him? First person to get it wins. Ooh, that was a photo finish there, but Kyle J. Weinmeier takes the record, or takes the win, as everyone else got it right after. Maybe not the best trivia question. I should have left the Cubs part off. But yeah, I remember that draft. I remember thinking and praying that the Twins would be dumb enough to take Mauer, because Mark Pryor was going to be the best pitcher in baseball for a decade, and didn't quite play out that way. But Kyle Weinmeier, just DM me on Discord and I'll hook you up with that code. All right, next we've got the Hippo, Mr. Hippo Vaughn. And a profile here that would have been very, very exciting to me in the early game. I loved ground ball pitchers. I loved pitchers that had a lot of green, didn't have major deficiencies in movement, control, stuff. And that's what Hippo Vaughn is here. And in addition to that, he's got 3 high pitch values and only 3 pitches. So as we look to moving him to the pen, he's a pitcher that's going to be a high stuff ground ball pitcher, which there aren't a ton of those, especially in the Diamond ranks. So I think this is a pretty darn interesting card for a Diamond tournament card. I think this is one that will certainly get a ton of play. As we look at the similarity scores, you see cards that have absolutely been part of the meta at times this year. Brandon Webb 97 was an extremely popular card. Same thing with Bender 98. So you see cards that have absolutely been part of what people have been deploying within Diamond Leagues, at least pre-face of the franchise. And so I think Hippo Vaughn certainly has some playable nature to him. But what do you think?
Well, I think the issue is with those cards you're comparing him to is he's minus control, right? And we talk about it a lot, but control is really your most important stat. This is a card that would absolutely dominate in Perfect Team 20, where movement was really your most important factor. But here, where walks are so important right now, and just giving up those free base runners, you really can't afford to have low 80s movement anymore. And that's really the issue for this card. Is it's just a bit too low. And actually, really, the Jim KAAT card, I have grading out as a better FIP than this card because of the control issues. So while this card is really interesting, I'd probably like to strike a petition to change the triple crown to something more relevant. Maybe, walk percent, K percent, and home run percent, or something more interesting that's not wins and arbitrary stats, to me. But yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. You can certainly play at a lower level, and because of the stuff, he'll be good. He's got a lot of stamina. Hold runners is fantastic, so I guess he shuts down Ricky at a really low level, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But there isn't really a lot going for this card overall.
Yeah, and the reverse splits that Chris talked about are here. He is better versus right than he is versus left. But I think this card most frequently is deployed in the bullpen, at which point reverse splits definitely decreases in its value to you. It's definitely not quite the same asset when you are in the pen. But I'm not a Diamond tournament expert, so I could be off base there, and maybe he is a starter for you where you can take advantage of those reverse splits. All right, that's the content set. Bell was my favorite. SHANTZ was Kidney's favorite. What'd you think of the overall set there, Kidneys?
It's interesting. It's kind of interesting that we got probably some of the best low-level cards we've seen in a while in Fox and SHANTZ. So I like when we get really strong low-level cards. I'd probably like to see them a little bit more. So yeah, that's my take on it. And
again, something I said at the top of the show, I think this was the quiet before the storm. I think next week is going to blow the doors off this content set, and I'm glad that we'll have some lasting vestiges of this content set that stick around within the various tournament metas. I think Nellie Fox is going to stick around. I think the Bobby SHANTZ card will certainly be sought after. There could be a couple other looming hits here in the gold ranks, and we'll just have to see how those play out. So that means it's 7th inning stretch time, folks. Stand up, stretch around, do a little singing because it's time for OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. Everyone's favorite game show. And the spirit of the show is that I show kidneys 3 things from the 90s provided by the community. He has to guess what they are. And then he will show me a Zoomer meme from today, and I'll try to make sense of it. Let's get started. All right, this first one comes from Fabtron. And Fabtron submits this photo. Who is this? What is this? And can you name them?
Can I name them? I mean, oof.
I'll give you a clue that they are a musical group. Or at least were.
The only thing that comes to my mind that's like a girl group that's older is Spice Girls. But
hey! Way to go, kidneys. 1 for 1. Now, for bonus points, how many of the Spice Girls can you name?
None.
So, left to right, you've got Posh Spice, Baby Spice, Sporty Spice, Ginger Spice, and Scary Spice. But you get credit for calling out Spice Girls. Well done. Next, courtesy of Cos Longhorn, Gunnison Stoneflies. He provides this photo. What TV show in the 90s were these folks in?
Oh, I've actually seen this. And what's the name of it? I actually watched this show. My ex's family was really big on this show. What's the name of it?
While you're stammering, I'll share with the chat here that this haircut you see on the far left is not identical to one that I rocked in high school, late middle school, but it's also not too dissimilar. I definitely fell prey to the bowl cut, and going bald was probably my punishment for such a horrible fashion choice.
I can't remember the name of it, but I know like she's Topanga, and I can't remember their other names, but I've watched quite a few episodes of it. That's sad.
All right, Topanga, we're going to give you 17% credit. And the show itself was Boy Meets World.
That's yeah, and they made a spinoff too, Girl Meets World, where it's their kids, right?
I don't know. That'd be a Zoomer show. You can throw that in the meme in future weeks. All right. Last but not least, what company is responsible for this sticker being on this VHS? Please remember to be wind. Warning, if this label is broken, you must purchase this video. Who used to put this? Hey.
I had Blockbuster when I was a kid. I'm not that old.
I don't know. Blockbusters haven't been around in too long of a time here. But yes, that is Blockbuster. Please be kind. Please rewind. I can't fathom that you had VHSs in your house. There's no way you guys were a Blu-ray or a DVD house.
Nope. Every morning at like 6 a.m., I would get up and I would watch Transformers that had been recorded like the night before on VHS.
Wow. I have a really hard time believing that, but I will take your word for it. All right.
Yep.
Next, we've got the Zoomer meme of today. And what do we have here? We've got Kidneys saying when they say Ty Cobb is a better hitter than Tony Gwynn, with a discerning look on his face and an X that says doubt. And then we've got me with my stash, the short-lived stash, saying when Kidneys thinks he's going to win Boomer v Zoomer, with that same X and the doubt. So I feel like the X is an Xbox X. I feel like the Xbox controller X is blue, but I don't really have an idea. Maybe this is a video game reference. There's some video game where some dude in a suit like this is, I don't know, in some sort of RPG type thing, and you press X to express doubt. But that's my best guess. What's the real answer here?
You're very close. So the video game is called LA Noire. It is an older game, but the man is Cole Phillips, and you play as a post-World War II and you play as a post-World War II LA detective, and you go around, and one of your options you have when you're investigating people is to doubt them. And some of the options when you doubt people are absolutely ludicrous and absurd. So this meme blew up in popularity maybe sometime last year, where, you know, somebody says something and, you know, you doubt it, you know, it's not true. You don't think it's great. So these are just some examples of some uses of the meme provided with our faces on it. So
this might be a photo finish. I think we're going to have to go to the chat for this. So you got the first one right. You got 17% credit on the second one. You got full credit on the third one. And then I kind of farted around on this. Who won? Walnut says we both lose. CFed gives it to you. Wait till next year says tie goes to the boomer. Kidneys, Zoomer.
I don't know. I feel like I got more than 17% on that other one, and I got 3-1. So yeah. I don't know.
Okay, I think that's appropriate. I think we're giving this one to the Zoomer. So we'll go ahead and close out this week's edition of OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, breaking the win streak that DRC had and starting a new one for Kidneys. Congratulations and well done. All right.
Thank you.
Next, we have got the Ask Us Anything, the Stump the Chumps segment of the show. We welcome all questions in the chat, and while you guys are adding some there, we will go with the ones that we received earlier today. So I have not thought of my answers to these. All I've done is dump them in here, so we'll have to make our answers up as we go. There's DRC, there's Kidneys. It's time to Ask Us Anything. All right, Kidneys, I'm going to start with you. What is the best food in your hometown?
In my hometown, like specifically in my town or my area? My town's tiny, man. So my area is famous for pizza. Maybe you've heard of New Haven pizza before, but if you haven't, I was surprised when I took a trip to Italy when I was 18. My uncle took me, and I was asked there about New Haven pizza from New Haven, Connecticut, and what was it like. And I'm actually not really big fan of New Haven pizza, but it is so famous. I guess it's an international thing, so I guess it would be that.
Perfect. So you're dropping New Haven pizza while talking to a guy from Chicago? Like,
I am.
Come on.
I much prefer Chicago pizza.
Come on, man. All right, so here's a food tip for you guys. If you ever find yourself in the West Chicago suburbs, in a little town called Bellwood, there's a mom and pop pizza place, and I'm terrified that the pandemic has put them under. I really hope it has not. But there's a mom and pop pizza place that goes by the name of Giacchino's, which is Italian for Little Jack. And it is the best pizza that you will ever have in your entire life. Literally the best pizza. Go there, get sausage and cheese pizza, and check it out. And like here in Chicago, there's a million places that have good pizza. So this isn't the only place, but it's the best. But Gino's East, Lou Malnati's, Giordano's, Rosati's, there's tons of places you can get a good pie. But that's, for my money, the best. Next, what is your favorite moment year to date in this game cycle? Favorite moment year to date in this game cycle. You want to take this one?
I just had a really cool moment where apparently on Doc's tiny little team, he somehow has a Randy Johnson historical legend, and I just beat him. So I'm going to go with that. That was pretty cool. Or maybe it was the 25-game win streak I just had in gold on the Dab City. That one felt pretty good. I scored a lot of runs, got a lot of perfect points for that. So
nice. I'm going to go with my very first sweat that I had in this game cycle. So I didn't know what I was doing. I found myself in Rookie League or Stone League or one of the very low leagues, and I was up against my buddy Chill Penguin X, who's lightly on the Discord, who hangs around, and we found ourselves in the same division, and we were coming to the finish line, and it was neck and neck. And one of us was going to win the division, and the other one was going to miss out on the wild card. And I really wanted to promote up to the next league, and the only way I was going to be able to do that was not only making the playoffs, but winning a playoff series. And so we finished the season with a 3-game set, and I needed to take 2 of 3 to win the division, get into the playoffs, and then hope to be able to earn promotion. And those 3 sims, and for the first time, going game by game and actually trying to micro. Like, micro wasn't even a thing until that point, but I got desperate, and I was like, I gotta win these 3 games. And I tried to force some micro, and I'm sure I screwed up. I'm sure I didn't do it well, but I was lucky enough to get the 2 wins I needed, to win the division, to promote up. So I have that clean, straight path from rookie all the way up to gold. I think I had to spend 2 seasons in gold before getting to diamond, but that was my favorite moment because it was my first like shot of adrenaline within this game, shot of like really investing heavily into that sim by sim that we've all felt at times in this game cycle. And no, Walnut, it was not losing 12 in a row to you. That was not a high. That was not my favorite moment.
If I could go back to Perfect Team 20, I had talked with Davey a little bit about his sheet, and Davey had like a system where you had to donate like just a small amount of money to be able to use his sheet. And I had told him, look, man, we were in the same league and we had just made playoffs with each other. And I go, look, if I beat you, right, I will donate money and I will purchase your sheet, right? And I was basically a free to play player. I had almost nothing. My team was pretty terrible. And Davey had every card in the entire game, I think, at that point. And he was a monster. And I don't know if he let me win or what happened, but I think I beat him in 6 games. And I went on to win the championship after beating him in the league championship. And I bought a sheet and changed my entire world. And that's how I got into advanced statistics and all that other stuff. So that's definitely my overall perfect team highlight, was taking that bet with Davey. So
nice. All right, so jumping up in the chat before we move on in the slide deck here, we've got Crash SF Giants asking who to play at first base in bronze tourneys. I know that I've played in the past Torrey. I know that I've played Spezio. Jose Martinez is like the go-to VL guy. Kidneys, do you have any other submissions besides those 3?
Definitely Spezio. I think Spezio right now is the best. He's a switch hitter, right? That's another switch hitter.
Switch hitter.
Just really, I think, an overstated overall card. And I think he plays both sides really well. And so I think he's just kind of a no-brain inclusion right now. But
very good. And honestly, you're picking 2 of the 3 because you're likely going to pick those that you're not putting at first base at DH, unless your kidney is enrolling out Joey Cora.
Joey Cora.
All right, next question. Bailey, out of the park, says, who is better than Aldridge in bronze? Drop me one name.
Dustin May.
Dustin May live card. All right, I will be able to submit my response to that once I'm done crunching the numbers. I don't want to give you old information, so I'll have something to you. DM me on Discord, and I'll get you once I load up my recent set of data. All right, Cos Longhorn says, what are 3 pieces of advice you'd give for setting up your team strategy? Which sliders are most important? I'll start. And one of the sliders that I always have cranked up 100% of the way is the one that matches handedness when you have a reliever come into the game. I think that's critically important. I think given how splitty this game is, given how dominant right-handed relievers are versus right-handed batters and vice versa for lefties, you have got to have your AI, and they'll even still screw it up. They won't do it 100% of the time, even if everyone's rested. But if given the chance, if given the choice, you want them matching that handedness. So jack that slider all the way up. Kidneys, how about you?
I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to post a link in the chat, and this is my sliders. So there you go. The ones I jack up all the way, like 100%, or like you just said, the favor lefty-righty matchup, always up. And the infield shift one. Love the infield shift one. I think it's important to jack that up. I found that my zone range stays high. That, yes, as CFED says, take my sliders, do the exact opposite of that, and that's how you be successful in this game.
Wonderful. So Kidneys has his sliders here. Let me see if I find anything that really bothers me. So a lot of these sliders are going to be overridden by your player strategy.
Absolutely.
So some of these don't matter at all if you go player by player like I do. Now, the ones that do matter are like pinch hit for position players, and I've got my slider way higher than Kidneys does here. If we get into the 7th inning of a game and my Pop Lloyd is out there and David Price comes out of the pen, I want them yanking Pop Lloyd right away to bring in a Cal Ripken or bring in someone who's got an actual chance of getting a hit there.
Yeah, that's actually mine should be all the way up because I changed how my team works lately. So that should be all the way up, and pinch runners should be all the way up because I have rookie now. So that's just an oversight on my part, and maybe I can go on another 25-game win streak with the wrong sliders. So we'll see.
Perfect. All right, next question, and this one is directed directly at me from Jefferson Jim, asking what I think the Cubs, the IRL Cubs, should do with Schwarber and Bryant, whether they should be non-tendered. And I don't think that non-tendering is really an option for talents like that. You've got to be able to move controllable assets for other assets in return if you're done with those players. But this season certainly wasn't a pretty picture for a lot of players in Cubdom, and I don't envy the job that now Jed Hoyer has to take on himself now that Theo Epstein has stepped down. There's a lot of tough decisions to be made, and really the balance of the decade, or really the next 5 years, next 10 years, is up in decision mode right now because you've got so many of these young players that are going to be coming off their rookie deals, and these aren't easy decisions by any way, shape, or form. All right, next question, jumping back to the deck. Slide deck here. How many packs do you think you've opened?
Not many, because I rarely ever open packs. I know you also rarely ever open packs. I think there's probably going to be a point in this game I sell everything I own and just open packs for the fun of it at some point, and then see what happens with Dab City then. I don't know. I've been opening a little bit more lately, but not since I hit gold, just to try and get some more income if I hit a big pull or something. Not a good strategy. Don't recommend that. I've lost a lot of money doing that. And I normally play pack tournaments over cash tournaments, but if I had to put a number on it, I don't know, it's probably over 1,000, maybe 1,500 or so.
Yeah, and that's a hard number to ascertain for me as well. Now, I tracked tournament packs won for months, probably all the way through July or August. And at the time I stopped tracking them, I had won 1,500 packs in bronze and silver tournaments. So I know I've at least got those 1,500. There were times when the Pack Demon, and Shifted, who's in the chat, can attest here, when the Pack Demon would call me and convince me that I should convert 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 perfect points for packs. I did a pretty good job fighting off the Pack Demon most of the game cycle here. And then in the period that I don't have tracking for, which is September to present day, I know there were a ton of packs that I won or redeemed via the Face of the Franchise missions and all the other pack-based missions that have come out. So if I had to just draw a line in the sand or set an over-under for Vegas to bet on, I'd probably put it around 3,000 or 3,500 packs. All right, moving on. What card did you wish you played before it became non-meta? I'm going to take this one first and let you stew on it, because for me, it's an easy answer. Ryan Sandberg, and I know the chat is probably more than sick of hearing Cubs-related BS, but I'm going to give you just a touch more right now. But Ryan Sandberg's in the game. He's got a 100 card. There were ample opportunities for me to buy that 100 card and throw it at third, which is really where it most appropriately belonged, even early game cycle. And I never did. I never did because there were always better cards that were cheaper. And I regret never playing the card because it sucks to never have my favorite player of all time on my team and never have played with him. I don't have any alt accounts, so I don't have a Cubs theme team that I could go and get my jollies with a Sandberg card there. So that's the card that I regret. What about you?
I regret not playing with a card. I feel like I don't really have any regrets. If there's ever a card I wanted, I got it at some point. Maybe the only card I haven't played with that I really wanted, back when it first was the big deal, and it still is a big deal, but was maybe Tris Speaker. I haven't had my chance to get my hands on yet. So maybe one of those. I'd love to see Ty Cobb someday. But those cards aren't like out of meta. They're just cards I haven't touched. I feel like I don't really care about a card if it falls off. So it's kind of a non-answer, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, that works. That works. All right, next we have got if DLL, if the Diamond Legends League was an MLB team past or present, what team would it be and who? Maybe I needed some proofreading on this question before I put it in here. I guess that makes sense. What team would it be and who? If the DLL, the collection of DLL were a collection of major league players, what team would we most closely resemble? I guess is the spirit of the question here.
I feel like now we are the Mets.
Oh gosh, no!
We have the most money. Apparently, we're going to be suspended.
That's where you're going.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Probably Mets or Yankees. Honestly, I mean, if you count Mac Jack's wins as DLL wins, we have the most wins and we have the most money. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, I think I was gonna go Nasty Boys for like the Reds of yesteryear, but I don't know if we're mean enough for that. I mean, we all know Walnut's really toxic, so maybe he's enough to push us into the Nasty Boys territory. But that's what I'll go with for this question. Next question: if you could get Rich to play at your wedding, congrats, kidneys, you're getting married. What song would you request?
What song would I request? This is kind of a Zoomer one, and it's also one that makes boomers hate me, so I'll go with this one. Save Rock and Roll by Fall Out Boy.
Can you sing a couple bars for us without us
Absolutely not.
Okay. I am not a huge music guy, but the last time I was a huge music guy was probably high school when I was driving around in my beat up, dented, and unrepaired Honda Accord and blasting at the top of my speaker's capability some Matchbox 20. So I'm going to be requesting some Matchbox 20. All right, next. What is the worst mistake that you've made in Out of the Park?
I really haven't made too many mistakes. I think if there was like an I didn't mean to click that button mistake, it was I locked Jack Quinn by accident for the Q mission. I don't know why all the name letter missions, they're all bronze cards, and then randomly Jack Quinn is in there as a diamond card for Q. And I locked my Jack Quinn, and I was really sad because he was like a 25, 30K card at the time, and I didn't have much money, and I was like, why did that just happen? I was about to sell him. But I've put him on and off my team for years now. He always plays way better than he's supposed to. I don't know why. I'm looking at some of his stats. Like even in 2040, he put up like a 2.77 ERA out of the pen for me. I mean, the card is a monster. Go waste your money on Jack Quinn and have him play worse than mine because mine's just better. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I do remember your Jack Quinn having some remarkable seasons within DLL that defied all explanation, but we'll leave that where it is. My answer for this, I could go a number of different directions. So like biggest financial mistake was probably buying Pettit off of API right before my series with J Mallet started for 500K. I think I looked at the auction house today and Pettit is like a 180K card, and that's likely to keep falling. So that was a huge perfect point dump for me in the spirit of trying to win. Now, however, I did win. And I won the game that I bought him for. I bought him for game one because I didn't have any lefty rested for my lefty cheese park. And so I bought him. He went in there. He won game one. So it's hard to say that was a huge mistake because it worked. And maybe the cost of my championship was 320 perfect points or whatever the delta ends up being. So if it's not that, I'll say that the time that I had that pit in my stomach that I really regretted something was when I was sitting on like 200K in perfect points. My game economy was not nearly what it got up to after I got involved in flipping silvers and after I got my bronze tournament team where it was really clicking on all cylinders. And the pack demon pulled me aside and said, just buy packs. Buy 200 packs. You could do it. And I bought the packs, and it was a huge mistake. I ended up yielding like 60K. And when you're a flipper and when you're a tournament guy and you're not reaching for your credit card, when you take out 140K liquid, you have cut yourself out at the legs, and the plays with which you can grow your roll are just that much less. And so it was in that moment that I really hated myself. And so I'll say that was my biggest mistake, was going against the discipline that I had shown for so long in the game, getting burned by a bad pack rip session, and then slowing down my game economy, which prevented me from continuing on the accelerated path that I was on at the time. And Shifted remembers it. Yeah, I remember groveling to him. I opened 200 packs and got nothing. Oh boy. All right. Pick one player to have 6 different versions. So 6 different types of this player in Perfect Team 22. And why? This is a hard one. I'm gonna think on this one. There's got to be some nuance to it. You want someone who can have varied enough cards where it's not just like, oh man, another Sean Dunston. It's like Sean Dunston was the same player his whole career. I don't need 6 of these. So probably someone that played a long time, but their play varied as they aged. This is a good question. Do you have one pop into to the front of your mind?
If I could have a player for every different version, I really like Walnut's answer, but I can't read that on the stream. I think Pete Rose is great, and Fabic's the one who threw that out there, because not only because he had such a long career, but also he played so many different positions that you could probably make a ton of different Pete Rose cards. I know we already have 3 or 4 of them, but you could make 6 Pete Rose cards, and they could all be very different and very good cards.
I think that's a good choice. I think given that you're going hitter, I'm going to go pitcher. And I want a pitcher that was deployed very differently over their career. And so I could go with someone like Bartolo Colon, who started as a fireballer with the Indians and then settled into a guy with like ridiculous control later on. But maybe that's not enough of a metamorphosis. Maybe someone like Smoltz is a better example. Someone who was a power pitcher and then they became more refined. And then in their late stage career, they actually became a legitimate reliever, putting up very big stuff numbers. So until I have a better idea pop into my head, I'll go with Smoltz, and I'll have 6 different versions of him, and I would spread them through the tournament competencies. So I'd have, I'd have a perfect. I'd have a perfect probably closer. I feel like his best season might have been when he was a closer, and then give me like a diamond starter. And then for his early years, maybe there's like a cool bronze card that can come out of it. So I'd spread the Smoltz love all around. All right, next. If you could have a sponsorship on your stream, who would it be and why? Who would you want to sponsor us, Kidneys?
Who would I want to sponsor us? What do I use? What do I like?
While you're thinking about that, I do like the Crash SF Giants answer of BGO. Having a catcher card, a second base card, a center field card. That's a pretty good choice. And then Trenton Christian's Bonds card. Bonds was always awesome, but his degrees of awesomeness and his competency in left field changed over the course of his career. And if you made a Bonds card for like some of his late stage, just absolutely bonkers seasons, if you made one that could play bonkers in Perfect Team, I don't know how you'd need to do it, but that would be really, really cool.
I'm going to go with, I like this answer way too much from Wait Till Next Year. It's the American Kidney Association. That is a beautiful answer. I also really like Sweki Ok's just put in the chat Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. Also really great answers. Those would be excellent sponsors, all of those things.
Yeah, I like that. I like the Barbasol that was suggested as well. Some sort of shave-related sponsor. All right. This might be the last prepared question we have, and then we'll turn our attention to the chat here. But had you ever heard of Nick Cornejo? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Before he beat your $1,000 card in a cap tourney.
No. It was one of those cards that I actually found really early on because I just went like Iron card sorted by control, and I was like, whoa, okay, this card's really good. Like, I'm gonna play him in my cap tournament. And then I went on Discord and I see all these people posting memes about him and everything, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty funny. So, obviously I kept them in, but no, I started out playing cap tournaments. It was the first tournament I played before I played bronze. I played the 1825 and the 1650 or vice versa, whatever it is. And I played a ton of those. And Nate Cornejo always made my teams. You have Nick Cornejo on there. I think it's Nate.
Hey, I think that might be the long con that whoever submitted this for the chat was really playing on us.
Yeah, I've never heard of a Nick Cornejo. But he's a fantastic player and perfect team. I love when we get really fun things like who was the kid last year? Chad will remember. Connor Joe, right? The arguably the worst card perfect team's ever seen, right? But you played him because he was a 40 overall hitter, right? In caps, so things like that are always fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't play cap tourneys, so I can't say I've ever had the experience here. I've never played a Nate Cornejo, but I can imagine it's a lot of fun. All right, now we'll turn to questions from the chat, and then we'll close things up for the day. While we're getting some questions there, I'm going to go ahead and run the giveaway. So let me pop open that screen. And the way that you can get a ticket is by doing !ticket. Once it will allow me to start it. Boom. Giveaway is live. Type !ticket. I did not think about how I would lose any questions in the chat with all of the noise that's now in the chat. So there are probably very good questions up above that are now all gone. But we'll let that run for a second. Kidneys, I'll ask you a question. What's the number one thing? If Chris pulled you aside and said, Kidneys, I'll grant you one wish for PT22. You can change one mechanic or one thing that existed in PT21, and you can change it how you want in PT22. What would you tell him?
I would change the weightings of live cards. I think live cards need to be accurately represented. I think there's some of the modifiers, maybe it's because they're still being tracked by 2010. I don't know if that's how it works or not, but aren't properly represented. I think like the fact that the baseline Ks on them are so low is not great, or the baseline movement across the board is so low. Like it needs to be adjusted a bit so they're more competitive. And I think certain cards like Andrelton Simmons should be able to compete with an Ozzie Smith. And I know like a lot of old people would be like, whoa, you can't say that. Go look up Andrelton Simmons highlights and then come back to me and tell me he's not better than Ozzie Smith. I dare you. He's an unbelievable player. So absolutely phenomenal. I would love to see some real competitive live cards next year.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. The live cards are really bad in comparison, where your 100 live cards are being phased out by silver. Like if you're still rocking a 100 DeGrom or what have you up as you climb the ladder in any way, shape, or form, you're in a lot of trouble. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know. The odds on live cards are a lot better, so I think I can share with you in the opinion that it's not realistic. Andrelton Simmons' defense, and then say Jacob deGrom's dominance. It would hold up a whole lot better historically. I just don't know what happens to the game economy, and if there are any downstream impacts that would be undesired by actually making those ratings more realistic.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Walnut, the like conditioning and stuff is way different, but like if Simmons is a better defender than Ozzie Smith, and maybe it's not he's a relative better defender, and maybe everything's relative, and Ozzie is so much better relatively than Simmons is, sure. But like I think he should be represented better than he is in the game. I think that's my issue. Is somebody like Trout even could be represented better than he is represented in the game. I think I just want a bit better representation, and that's a pretty fair point. With that, they're I forget what it is. Like there's 75% odds are live or 80% or whatever it is. The numbers, and so that it could impact the market maybe too much if they were too powerful. But I think they could be better and still not break the game for sure.
All right, perfect. We'll go ahead and pull our winners. We've got 58 people in there. We're going to close it in 5 seconds. Exclamation point ticket if you haven't done so yet. 2 and 1 giveaway is closed. 3 winners coming at you. First winner is T-Rex. Second winner is Calvin 1950. And third winner is JB Black 15. Congratulations to you guys. Please DM me on the Discord with your correct capitalization of your Out of the Park Perfect Team username, and then I will get you those perfect points as quickly as I can. I think I saw a couple questions in there, and we'll get to maybe 2 or 3 more, and then we'll wrap up for the evening here tonight. All right, Jefferson Jim asks, if you could change one thing about the game economy, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about the game economy, I don't know. The thing that jumps to my mind instantly is I would probably change the quick sell prices. And I know that's like, whoa, that changes everything. And yeah, it does. But I think effort value return on like packs and stuff is a little low right now. I think that's like an easy way to do it. Maybe making live cards playable is an easy way. I know just in the missions we got tonight, a ton of live cards are going for a lot of money right now, with all the awards being, played out and stuff now. So we have like Shane Bieber selling for 35K and stuff like that. So, that's a bit more PP, but it's pretty late in the cycle for stuff like that. So I think I'd like to see some more return on packs a little bit earlier. Would be something I'd like. So maybe it's quick sell value, maybe it's something else.
Yeah, I think for me, I would love more transparency to the transactions. So we currently make 90% of our decisions off of L7, which in 90% of the circumstances isn't the greatest thing to be making a decision off of. I would love to see, highest sale in past week, lowest sale in past week. Show me the L7. Show me the average, because I think the L7 is actually median. So I'd love a ton more insight. I would love it, and I've suggested this on streams in the past. I would love it if they would import that type of data into their player database. They are the only ones with access to pull that type of insight. Unlike you, who you've got your sheet which fulfills its purpose, but there's no way that you could ever dream to pull that in there without some sort of API to do so. So given that they've got all that information on their end, like how rich in data and how rich in insights would that sheet be if it had things like how many of a given card is in circulation, what's the auction house activity of that card? People would literally be living in that database and refreshing it on a daily basis. And maybe from a server load perspective, that's not something that they want to design it for right now. But as far as me being able to wave a magic wand and have something related to the game economy, that's what I would ask for. Next question here. We've got Mac. Where did it go? Mac asked for some senior superlatives here. He wants to know who's the best auction house player, the best team builder, the best in-game manager, the best innovator. I know what you're going to say for in-game manager, so go ahead and get it out of the way, kidneys. It's been a source of sore subject for all of us here in the DLL.
I mean, it's API, right? Like, just one perfect league. He's pretty hot right now. Yeah, I mean, he's been famous for his cheese strategy for a long time. And as far as in-game managing goes, what else can you do? I mean, it's got to be API or J Mallet, right? That's pretty much as far as it can go. So,
Yep, I definitely think the auction house element of this question, there's a lot of people very active in the auction house, and I think there's a lot of people that might be more active than they let on in the Discord. But for the people that do, share their stories and their anecdotes about things that they've been able to accomplish, there's a lot of good success stories coming out of BFF, as heard on my Quanta Contour interview. You had Pidge sharing his insights. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who execute plays. Now, some of them work, some of them brick, as Pidge put it in the interview. And so I think that's a hard question to answer. We know who the key players are. We know who's making that a key focal point of their out-of-the-park game strategy. But as far as who's the very best, I think that's hard to pinpoint. Best wood paneling would absolutely be DishNet, with Pidge a close second. But we'll keep looking for better wood paneling, if that's even possible.
Yeah, if I had to pick some of the other people on the list, I think Team Builder probably would have to be MacJax. I think for a long time the reliability of his War Max strategy and being able to pick consistently who's going to be a really good player for a long time has worked out really well for him. Innovator, maybe not the most in league play, but consistently to me, T-Chuck has had some rather unique answers to a lot of questions I've asked him, and a lot of the times they've been right. So I like T-Chuck. I think Pidge is probably a runner up there for unique answers to questions that end up being right long term. So I think those are some of the more fascinating people out there.
Yeah, I'll call out Bert, the Somerset Dolphins, for also running an off-meta build in Perfect League for a very, very, very long time. So that's quite the accomplishment. But I couldn't agree more with your nomination as well. All right, I think we've gotten to most of the questions, and so we can transition to the end. Had a fun time tonight. Thanks to everyone for joining. When we went through all the new cards we got tonight, we did OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. Kidneys got back in the win column. Congrats to you. And then we just did an AMA, which was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do something like that in the future and give more notice so that we can have more time for the questions to roll on in. But any closing or parting thoughts here for you, Kidneys?
Love the title for next week. That is something special. Took another one off Doc. I know probably much to his frustration, so that brings me great joy. And no, it was a great episode. I love doing AMA type stuff. That's always fun. We'll probably do another one later down the road if you guys have more questions. Always enjoy that. So just had a good time. Guys, you like the content, you're new, make sure to follow. You really enjoyed the content, you have the means to do so, you can always subscribe and get access to the great emotes we got going on here. So just love the stuff, enjoy doing this. It's a blast getting to do it every week. It's really surreal. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, and I'll echo your sentiments there. I know that we've got some people in the chat that are just so generous gifting out subscriptions to folks. If your subscription comes up, if your 1 month is done and you enjoy tuning into these broadcasts and you're enjoying what we're doing and you feel like supporting it, the best way to do so is to just renew that subscription. And for those that have already done that, we definitely thank you. We're very flattered by that, and it's definitely what motivates us to keep going and to keep trying to do our best to bring you our perspective on new cards, on meta strategies, and just try to have some laughs all along the way. So with that said, drop us a follow, hit the notification so you know when we go live. And the next time I will be seeing you will be on Sunday for the DLL World Series. And if I have my way, I'm going to be playing in it. I got to fight off Shifted in my division to get there, but he's not much of a threat, so I think I'll be able to do so. Although the Trash Pandas, Chuck's Trash Pandas, are in there, and he's a formidable foe, so we'll have to see how the division plays out. But looking forward to it. Sunday afternoon, as you're hanging around, just check it out. We keep a we keep a scoreboard up on the board to let you know what's going on in the series. Pop in, pop out as you please, but it's always a fun time. So with that said, DRC and Kidneys signing off.